Hello and welcome to the JBoard YouTube channel. It's the go-to resource for job board builders looking to learn from the most innovative minds in the industry. I'm Martin Redstone, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Phil McParlane, the founder of 4dayweek.io, one of the most unique and inspiring job boards on the market. 4dayweek is dedicated to helping job seekers find roles that prioritize work-life balance by exclusively listing jobs with a 4-day work week, which is 36 hours a week maximum, really. In a world where burnout and overwork are all too common, Phil's mission is really resonating with job seekers and progressive employers. Today, we're going to be diving into Phil's journey of building 4-day week, exploring the rise of the 4-day work week movement, and really just uncovering the lessons that he's learned along the way. Whether you're a job board builder, an entrepreneur, or just curious about how the future of work is evolving, this episode, I think, is going to be packed with insights that you just don't want to miss. So let's jump in and hear from the man who's helping to redefine how we work. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Martin. That's a great intro. No pressure.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. So, Phil, thank you so much for joining me. Why don't you share us a bit about your professional background and what led you to start your job board?
Yeah, without boring everyone, I'll keep it quite short. So I'm a software developer. That's what I started out as. I started working as a data scientist, which before it was even kind of called that. And then, yeah, I kind of just got a bit disengaged with my job, wasn't loving it, looking for other things to not be in the job, basically. Started many a business, I must say. This is not my first rodeo, and it's probably my first success. It does just show you it does take a long time sometimes to get a hit. Um, and yeah, I guess we'll get into it, but decided to leave my job to start this job board, which is, as you say, focusing on jobs with a better work-life balance, basically.
So, so what inspired you to focus on that niche, that 4-day week, that better job life balance? What was
Yeah.
the inspiration behind that?
I mean, honestly, it was scratching my own itch. I live in Glasgow, but I was traveling to Edinburgh every day, so I was traveling almost 3 hours per day. I didn't leave much time, for like life. Like, it was 1.5 hours each way. And yeah, just always wanted something that was like not part-time, but not full-time, but something kind of in the middle. I didn't even know the phrase 4-day week. I was searching for like near full-time jobs and all random queries this like 5, 6 years ago. And honestly, it just annoyed me, if I'm being honest, that every single job is 40 hours a week or like 35 over 5 days or whatever it is. They're all the same. There's no variation. And it's mad because you have variation in all aspects of life, but when it comes to like a career, everyone does 9 to 5 pretty much. So yeah, it was my own frustration. And then I started looking into it, and then I came across the 4-day week, and there was little embers of things happening. Some companies were doing it. Buffer.com was one of the kind of first ones that I came
Mhm.
across. Um, yeah, and then just I put a site up online, and I swear I spent like 2 days on it because I've had so many bad businesses. I was like, I'm going to spend no time on this at all. I just want to get out there and see if anyone likes it. And, it's kind of obvious in hindsight. I put it up 4-day week jobs. There wasn't even any jobs on it. It was just like a bit of a manifesto of this is what I want to see, jobs with a bit more kind of flexibility. And lo and behold, it went semi-viral on Hacker News, which is popular forum, for software developers. And yeah, I got like 300 sign-ups in the first day or something. I was like, okay, this is something that people want. I'm going to build this now. And yeah, as I said, there was no companies, no jobs. I was scratching everywhere over the internet to find companies, and I got some, and just put them up online for free, no charge, whatever. And yeah, it just kind of started from there. It was very fast initially, and then the
Mm.
thing is, when you launch a website and you don't have any traction with SEO or Google, you get this kind of big jump, and then nothing happens for a long time. And there was 6 months of struggle, but after about 6 months, I got a couple of sales basically on the job board, and decided to just throw caution to the wind and just go for it, quit my job, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Interesting, interesting. So
Mhm.
that was how long ago was it when did you found the job board?
So it was 2020, and I actually remember the moment that I realized I was going to do it. Like, I was in work, I traveled 1.5 hours, about to travel 1.5 hours back. It was a Friday, and everyone's playing table tennis, and I'm just like, why am I traveling in for a table tennis tournament, basically? It's ridiculous. So I kind of got a bit, yeah, just that was one of the moments that I was really like, yeah, this is an inflection. I can't be traveling to do this every day. So yeah, but about 2020, it was the height of the pandemic. I think it was December 2020. Things were changing. There was a lot of change with the view on work. Remember remote work? That was like a dirty phrase. People
Yeah.
couldn't, it was like working from home. People didn't believe that you could work from home, and then that obviously became quite normalized. And yeah, what 4 day week was one of the things that has, I guess, changed in opinion post-pandemic. So some
And
things
there's
came good of it.
no, absolutely, and there's certainly been quite a massive shift in that side of things. Well, you mentioned remote work, but actually there has been quite a significant shift in the thought process around the 4 day week. I know last year there was the national experiment, I think it
Hmm.
was called, around 4 day week. So what how did that affect? Did you
Hmm.
see the trends? Obviously you've had kind of 4 or so years of data and trend going on now. Did you see it really picking up last year, or what's been some of those key milestones over the last 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I got a little bit lucky. Well, I say lucky, I've had so many attempts at these things and none have really stuck. So I guess just keep trying, you will eventually get lucky. I got lucky in that, at the same time, 4dayweek.com, which is the not-for-profit, they do all the research studies and the pilots. They were really ramping up and they were doing lots of studies into the 4 day week. And there's been so many in, like, honestly, every country you could imagine. Um, and the results from all these pilots have been pretty much the same. Productivity goes up, it's easier to recruit, people stay in the job for longer, um, people are healthier, they're happier. There's just so many things I could list off, probably about 20. Um, and yeah, it's just that it really coincided with a bump in traffic. People were searching for 4 day week jobs a lot more on Google, and I just so happened to be in the crossfire of that, I guess. So it worked out well, for sure.
Brilliant, brilliant, real kind of trendsetter going on there. So how did you ensure that you captured that traffic? Was it how did you capture that traffic? Good
Mhm.
SEO. What was your strategy behind that?
I mean, it was SEO really, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any job boards out there that can survive without some sort of Google presence. We do bow down to the beast that is Google. And I can talk about that later, but there's been some changes, I would say, with Google, especially with, the algorithm and AI stuff. But in the early days, it was just all SEO. I was just learning SEO as much as I could in my spare time. I was watching all the Ahrefs YouTube videos, which I definitely would recommend if anyone's getting into building job boards, watch those. And yeah, just putting content out there. Eventually, I was starting writing all the content myself for the website, but eventually you get to a point where you just don't have time. You have to outsource it a little bit. So yeah, that was the early days. It was just all Google, and as time goes on, you start getting websites linking to you, got some kind of good press coverage, and I was lucky in that, the 4 day week is something journalists like to write about. It's quite trendy, it's
Mm.
interesting, it's catchy, it's clickbaity in some ways almost. Um, so yeah, just SEO, SEO, SEO was the real early days. But yeah, we can talk about how that changed later, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose just to kind of, focus a little bit on, the early days again, you mentioned that, it was a bit of a slow first 6 months until you made your
Hmm.
first couple of sales, but you had some early success with sign-ups from a piece on Hacker News. How did you how did you get into Hacker News? How did it appear there? Some
Hmm.
of our listeners might and viewers might want to understand how to actually get into the echelons of a developer kind of forum.
So I mean, I'll say Hacker News is kind of like Reddit in that the clientele are quite picky about what gets posted and they
Yeah.
can be quite harsh. So I guess I was lucky in that it was a job board mostly for software developers initially, and it kind of just hit a chord with a lot of people. A lot of people felt as though during COVID times, especially working long hours, etc. And yeah, just right time, right place. But Hacker News isn't going to be somewhere that I'm going to get traffic forever from. It was a one-hit thing, so I would say focus more on the sustainable stuff like social media, SEO, all that kind of stuff. Um,
Absolutely. But a great first kind of bounce
oh yeah.
into yeah, absolutely. So that was, 4 years ago you launched the board. It took 6 months to get your first couple of sales. So over the last 4 years, what's been the key milestones? What are some of the biggest successes that you've achieved with the job board over the last 4 years?
I mean, I would say it's quite heavy. My job board specifically is very heavy on one side of the marketplace. there's not many employers, but there's lots of people interested in the 4-day week. So most of the successes come from like I'm almost at 500,000 sign-ups to the newsletter lifetime. Not quite there yet. Obviously people unsubscribe, so the newsletter goes out twice a week to about 100,000 people. That's been the biggest one for me, and it's been the biggest way of revenue, to be honest with you, like just selling ads. And I don't mean job ads, I just mean ads.
Okay.
Ads for tech companies, anyone that would want to get in front of an audience of mostly tech, mostly North American for whatever reason, um, software engineers, etc. So that's been the major success, I guess. And yeah, things have changed with that as well. There's been a lot of volatility in the last few years with AI and even like sending out emails that goes into spam folder a lot more, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But you got to roll with the punches, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's focus on that then. So you mentioned one of the biggest successes has been, the number of candidates, number of job seekers that are looking for, that are signing up to your newsletter, and so you've monetized that audience ultimately.
Mhm.
Um, how did you decide that? So a lot of our job board kind of audience, one of the biggest struggles is monetization, and whether to monetize the job seeker, whether to monetize the employer. But you've gone about it a slightly different way and monetized the audience rather than one of the direct users of your job board. Could you go through, I suppose, without giving away too many secrets, what your commercial strategy is on both the kind of job board side, but also how you came to make that a success, monetizing your audience?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had not much of a choice really in that there's so few companies that have a 4-day week. It really is, I could name them all. It's that small.
Yeah.
Whereas there's lots of people coming. So I didn't really want to sell anything, but I could run ads. It still makes that platform free. Some job boards lately have been, and it's fine, I don't judge. Do whatever works. But they kind of make these hidden posts where you've got to unlock them, you've got to pay to unlock them, stuff like that. And I could definitely have went about that way, but it just didn't sit right with me. Um, so I just felt that it would be better to monetize through ads, like affiliate deals. I advertise a lot of like resume writing tools and these kind of things, and it's just like a product that is very relevant for that person at that time. They need
Mhm.
cover letters, etc. Um, so that's been more the strategy. Maybe I've missed out on a bit, left a bit on the table by not making it, charging the side of the marketplace that is in abundance, which is the person hiring. But yeah, I just felt with the whole kind of vision of the 4-day week and being open and it just didn't sit right, I guess.
No, no, that makes perfect sense, and I think that a lot of people will be quite, dare I say, not jealous, but quite interested in understanding how in 4 years you've been able to build a database of 400,000 for your newsletter, or more, sorry, almost
Mhm.
500,000 for your newsletter. How did you how did you go about getting that level of interest and that level of signups?
I mean, so I guess one thing I've learned in software development over the years is, first of all, users are very lazy. They will spend so little time on your site, like 8 seconds or something. If you do not capture them straight away, um, they're not going to come back. So like when you come to my site initially, it just says find a 4-day week job. Work less, earn the same, find a better work-life balance, and just sign up for free, massive in your face. I
Mm,
don't see that a lot in job boards. Like a lot of job boards, you go onto the website and you're just instantly into the jobs. There's pros and cons to both, by the way, I should say. Definitely there are pros and cons. But with me, I wanted to just kind of get their email, get back in touch with them, just send them, just make it more two-directional and long-term rather than they just come and they just see the jobs and then they leave. So I was focusing on collecting emails, I guess, as a primary strategy. And it's easier for me than some other job boards because find a 4-day work or get a 4-day work week job is just like wow,
yeah.
you know. So that was an easy sell to, I guess, a lot of people.
Okay, so that makes sense. So CTA front and center, with some clear kind of, I suppose, call outs of what people are signing up to, what they're there for. And like you said, they're lazy and they want their problems being solved pretty quickly. So that makes perfect sense. So how did you get? I know, like we said, it's quite an en vogue, very very heavy towards the job seeker side of the market, in terms of what you do. So we talked a little bit earlier about advertising, SEO, etc., etc. So how do you get that level of traffic to your job board?
I mean, initially when I started out, it was writing. So the key thing about SEO, if I want to summarize SEO in one word, one sentence, it would be find what people are searching for and write content that addresses those searches. But not only that, address the stuff that no one else is really writing content about, the kind of low competition stuff. So, that would just be called long tail searches. It would be, what is the interview process at Facebook for a data scientist or something that's really kind of towards the end. Not many people search for it, but at the same time, not many people are writing content about it. And then third of all, it's a very relevant audience. These people who want to know the interview process at Facebook, um, they're in the interviewing stage, obviously. They're searching for a job and you have jobs, so it's kind of a good match. So for me, it was just writing a lot of content that the job seekers would be interested in, especially at that time in their searching journey. I would say it's changed a little bit with AI. It's kicked out a lot of informational type queries. If you type into Google, what is a 4-day work week? Instead of me being number one, it's now a 4-day work week is 32 hours per week.
Yeah.
It's the AI summary. So I've kind of laid off that a little bit lately. I knew it was coming for a long time, but yeah, c'est la vie. There's been many changes in SEO, and there will be more.
And how do you keep up with that?
Tough. That is tough. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I think the main thing you can do is just diversify. I'm trying to like get away from Google as much as I can, although I can never get away from Google. It's always going to be there. It's
Yeah.
always going to send traffic. But be focusing more on social media, that kind of thing. But it's tough. I'm not going to lie. I know some job board owners recently that have been hit pretty hard with the updates. So if you are one of those, you're not alone. I was hit as well. But thankfully it's still not too bad yet. It's good, man.
What was the impact of those updates?
I mean, for me, I think it was about 30% to 40% of traffic just within the space
Wow.
of a few weeks. So it was a hard one to take, but what I would say is most of the traffic that it did take was kind of like low value traffic. It was stuff that AI could easily answer, and it was traffic that people would come onto my website, get the answer, and leave. It wasn't like high converting traffic, so
Yeah.
it's not too bad. I would say the actual impact is much less, but when you're monitoring analytics every day and you see 30% drop, it's
Yeah.
it's a bit annoying. Yeah.
That's pretty harsh. Yeah, absolutely. And so did you see an impact in the number of sign-ups as well?
A little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
but not to the same degree, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So that's not so bad. So once you've got those people signed up, how are you keeping them engaged? You talk about newsletters. What's the cadence of that? Is it
hmm
weekly? Is it fortnightly? Is it bi-weekly? What kind of content are you sharing, and what are you seeing the impact of that in terms of click-through rates, people
hmm
returning to the site? How does that look?
So, I mean, like when they sign up initially, they go into a very short email sequence, and I think it's like two, maybe three emails. And part of it is just like tell them what the 4-day week is, what it's all about, what we're pushing for, being very clear about the language because 4-day week means different things to different people. 4 long days, 4 short days, less salary, blah, blah, blah. So just kind of setting out the pros and cons and what it means. And then also, I'll be honest, there's a third email that's more like how to kind of get a job, and it's like tips, 7 tips to write and see your resume. And some links are affiliate links. I'm just going to be honest. That's the third email that goes out. And then after that, they just get 2 emails a week. Obviously, they can unsubscribe at any moment. But it's just like it's 40 jobs with a 4-day week and 4 companies with a 4-day week. So it definitely like gives them what they've been looking for. But people are typically searching for a fairly short period of time, so they come and go. It's quite. But then you get some people that just like the. I do like an update on not an update, but just some sort of like thought about the 4-day week or something that I've been thinking about. I don't know. You could maybe call it thought leadership, although I hate that phrase. But yeah, just to keep it interesting, so it's not boring jobs every week. I do put a bit of effort into it. So yeah, that's what it is, and it doesn't have a massive click-through rate. I'll be honest. Like with all newsletters, single digit percentages is pretty common. But if people want a job, they'll click on it and they'll apply, and yeah, it's all good in the long term, I would say.
No, sounds good. Sounds good. So let's talk some numbers then, just so that I can kind of get my head around this. So most of your revenue is coming from monetizing your audience. Is that correct?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah. It's advert, so I can go list off all the things. It's advertising in the newsletter. When they sign up initially, they give me their email address and I ask them, do you want your resume reviewed for free? And it's like an AI resume review. It'll tell you
Hmm.
you're missing some things here, you should do bullet points here, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like an upsell. And I work with a company, I should be clear, called RightC that does that.
Hmm.
So that's one. There's obviously job ads, but I wouldn't say I would. Yeah, it's not one of the larger revenue streams, if I'm being honest, which is kind of funny because you just expect job board. When I came into this initially, I was like, I have a job board, I will sell job ads. And then it didn't pan out like that, even close. Um, what else? Yeah, just got other lots of affiliate deals for resume writers and that kind of thing. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it.
That's great, and I suppose based on the fact that you left kind of full time permanent employment 3.5 years ago, it's obviously sustained your income. So
Yeah, I mean, last year was more, the revenue was more than my salary, I should say, but that doesn't mean that,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of costs that come
of
off.
course, yeah,
I
yeah, of
think I've
course.
spent about 50 grand on SEO stuff over the last few years, but it's investment. You're investing in the actual, if I ever sell it, I would hope to get that back and more. Um, but yeah, I had a really good year last year, as I say, it was more than my salary I'd ever made. The last few months of last year, as I say, that's when all the AI stuff happened. So it's a bit nervy times in the old SEO world, but there have been nervy times before, and as I say, there'll be nervier times in the future.
So
So
what's the plans for the future then? What does 2025 hold for you and for 4 Day Week?
So the beautiful thing about, well, first of all, about 4 Day week, it's getting more companies for me. It's getting more jobs. I mean, why do people come to the job board? They come to get a job. They want as many jobs as you can physically get that are relevant to them. So it's getting more jobs. I mean, at the moment, I think I've only got 1,500 jobs on the website, but a lot of them aren't specifically 4 Day week. They're like 4.5 day week, or they're like 4 Day week during the summer. There's lots of categories I've opened up to just because if I did it only 4 Day week jobs, there would be a lot of people fighting over very few jobs.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that, and I'd also say the beautiful thing about doing a job board is you get to a point where it is just so passive. It is like unbelievably passive to the point where some days I'm like, how do I fill my time? I don't really know what to do. Everything's automated. All the jobs go out automatically. The newsletter's created mostly automatically. It gets to the point where I'm just adding stuff for the sake of adding it. So the nice thing that it gives me is time to obviously spend with family, friends, etc., but also to like build new things. So I've got a little new thing on the side. There's nothing to do with job boards, I should say, but yeah, it just gives you time to do stuff. It's a very passive business model.
That's good to know. So let's just kind of on that passive side of things. So 1,500 or so jobs on the job board right now. Like you said, you've opened up the categories to make it a little bit more flexible around what that
Mhm.
4 Day week means. Um, how are those jobs getting there? Are they all posted by employers? Are they aggregated from elsewhere? Are they put on manually? How are those jobs getting there?
So this is the kind of, I guess, unspoken truth of the job board world is that most job board jobs you see on job boards are like crawled or scraped.
Yep.
You have a chicken and egg problem. I mean, if you're starting a website and you're trying to give jobs to people, but you've got no companies, the companies aren't going to come because the people aren't going to come. It's just like you need to get started somehow. You just got to
Yeah.
get jobs up there. And 99 times out of 100, the company is delighted that you're putting them out there. You're giving them a backlink to their website, you're giving them some applications. Obviously, if the company gets in touch and said, I don't want on, that's fair enough. I've done that before. But yeah, most of the jobs are scraped. I've spent a
Yeah.
lot of time finding companies that have a 4 Day week, and then mostly I've been focusing on selling jobs that are at the top of the list because when you scrape the job, you might be at the top of the list for a few hours and then you're away. But if you pay, you get up there for a whole month or something. So that's
Yeah.
the kind of way I've done it. I guess it changes slightly between job boards, but yeah, you got to get traffic, and the only way you get traffic is with jobs. So
Yeah,
that's one way to
and,
start.
and the way you're doing it's quite a traditional way of doing it as well. There's nothing there's nothing secret about having to backfill and aggregate.
Yeah.
Chicken and egg problem, like you said, is a
hmm
very well known one. So, so if you were stood in front of a room of aspiring job board owners, what would your advice be to them? Where would they start? Lessons learned, those kind of things.
I would say like niche to begin with. If you're just on your own and it's just you and you want to, get a success fairly early on and you don't want to make your life a pain, I would say niche hard. Like I niched on 4 day week. It's very specific. It's a growing area. If you can find a niche that's growing, even better. Um, what else? I mean, I've got an exact match domain. I don't know if that makes much of a difference these days, but just having 4dayweek.io is my domain name. It makes it easier to rank on Google. I still think that is a signal for sure.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, as I said earlier, like if you're doing a job board, you need to be doing SEO. You just have to get good at it. It's not rocket science. It's you can learn it pretty quickly. There's a lot of free content out there. As I said, the Hrefs YouTube was where I learned. Um, and yeah, just get going. Don't overthink it. But I would say that the first decision is quite important. Is picking the niche, picking what you really want to focus on. Because how many times I've seen someone like announce on Twitter, "I'm launching a remote job board." I'm just like, "Ugh." You're setting yourself up for disaster because there's just so many remote job boards. And I do know someone that actually did it and made a huge success, Leor, who you should have on actually, remoterocketship.com.
mhm.
He's done amazing. But yeah, I would say focus on a niche is easier than just doing what everyone else does.
Yeah, yeah, and finally, you said that you kind of launched it in a couple of days. Was that were you able to build something yourself, or did you use software that was already provided out there? How did you go about launching it in such a quick amount of time?
So I am probably not unique, but I'm a software developer. Not
Yeah.
all job board owners are a software developer. So it just made sense for me to just do something very quick and custom I could get up within a day. If you're not a job board owner, I'd probably recommend using software to be honest with you. I know that obviously you have JBoard, but yeah, it just makes it easier. It does make it easier. There are pros and cons to both, I should say. There's definitely pros and cons.
Yeah.
But for me, being a software developer, it just made a lot of sense to do it myself. But then again, long term, I'm running into issues. There's bugs. There's it becomes a bit of a challenge to keep the whole thing running. But yeah, pros and cons.
Absolutely. You've got to have something to keep you from being bored, haven't you? Oh, good stuff. Well, look, I've really appreciated you joining us today, just to share some of your experiences and your lessons that you've learned. Um, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, just search Phil McParlane, which is a tricky one to spell, but yeah. On there, on Twitter, I've not been posting much lately. Yeah, that's another algorithm change, I should say. I used to have a decent following on Twitter, and then that just gets rug pulled as well. But anyway, I feel like I've moaned a lot this. So I'm Phil O Star on Twitter if you really want to find me there.
We'll make sure that's linked to. That's for sure. That's for sure. Good stuff. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing how things go with your job board.
Yep, I appreciate it, Martin. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks a lot.